Organized Grind with Orikal Uno.
Yeah.
Recorded live at Graft Fruit Studios in South Minneapolis.
Yes, y'all. This is Orikal Uno checking in once again with another episode of Organized Grind, the podcast. This is episode number 45, and we got yet another special guest in the building. Someone by the name of Bona Phide. He's been around the Twin Cities for a minute. Why don't you say what's up, Bona Phide?
What's up, everybody? How you doing? Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, man. Thanks for coming on. It's only overdue, I'd probably say. We put out a project called Tonafied like December 2018, January 2019.
Right around there, yeah.
It's already been a year.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Fun. That was so much fun, man.
That was dope. Yeah. That was dope. We actually go way back. I mean, I've been watching you do your thing around here since I was 13, 14. So yeah, it's actually crazy that 13 years later we finally link up. I even have a flyer here from when you and Flynch performed at Honey for that IPR thing.
Oh yeah, wow.
Yeah, man. I was actually checking that out. So I actually have a flyer with Flynch and Sun Chi.
Oh man.
Behind me right now.
I don't even think I have that anymore. That's dope.
Yeah, man.
Very cool.
I was thinking about that.
You just kind of blew me away with that.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I remembered that night, watching you guys perform on the Honey crate stage.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I think that was prior to them actually having a real stage.
Oh yeah, back then for sure.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, man.
Now you just kind of threw me. I'm kind of staring up there like, wow.
Yeah, man. No, it's cool. But why don't we go ahead and start at the beginning here? Why don't you tell the audience what is the first memory you have of encountering hip hop?
Probably when I was, about 7 or 8. Hip hop was just reaching out where we were. My dad came home. He was a power lifter, so they were listening to this new music, hip hop.
Okay.
And then he brought home Kumo D with Wild Wild West on it, and that was one of the first tracks. Probably that. I remember on MTV, Aerosmith and Run DMC doing Walk This Way. That was definitely one of the first. I just remember that video where they're beating down the walls, and
sure.
That one got me going. Yeah. But yeah, that's some of the first couple things that I first remember. Yeah.
Where did you grow up?
I grew up out in Ham Lake, Minnesota.
Ham Lake.
Yep.
All right. So, where exactly would that be on the map?
It's a northern suburb, so it's almost into the sticks. It's pretty far out there.
Okay.
But yeah, that's
okay. Nice. How did your parents make their way to Ham Lake?
Well, they both grew up in Minneapolis. My dad grew up in North Minneapolis, and my mom grew up in Southeast Minneapolis. And they lived in North Minneapolis for a while, but then they decided to start having kids. So they wanted to get a house, and they were looking for places. And my grandma and grandpa had moved out of Minneapolis they lived in Southeast, and they had moved to Ham Lake.
Okay.
And there was all this cheap land that they could build on. Right across, there was literally lots across the street. So they hooked my parents up with a deal to be out there with them. So
nice.
They ended up out there. They were city kids that wanted to be out in the sticks basically and get away from it all. So
yeah. So is that where you grew up then?
Yep, that's where I grew up.
Right. So how was school like?
It's definitely it's weird that I came to hip hop from growing up there.
Sure,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because definitely out there it was more metal, rock, that type of thing growing up. So it was definitely different. I finally started to gravitate towards Minneapolis in my early teens, I would say. My grandma lived in North Minneapolis. My uncle lived in North Minneapolis. So I spent a lot of time there. When I first got my first job, I spent a lot of time going back and forth between. It was at the state fair, so
I
started to get more involved in Minneapolis. At that point, my parents would love to go down to First Ave when I was younger too. So
Okay.
they'd take me down to concerts down there. So
That's awesome.
that's when I started to open my eyes like to the whole world. You know what I mean? So
Sure. So like back in school, then like what kind of kid like did you have like a lot of friends, or were you more of the shy type, or like what was the school experience like in Ham Lake for you?
So I went to Blaine High School, and
To Blaine, okay.
but yeah, you know, like I kind of went through all kinds of different
Phases.
You know what I
Okay.
mean? Like I was a skater punk for a really long time.
Sure.
That was always like my main thing. You know, I loved skateboarding when I was a kid.
Okay.
You know, I was into a lot of metal, into a lot of hardcore at the time. You know, and like Wu-Tang, Method Man,
Sure.
you know, Cypress Hill when that first started coming out, you know, all the skater kids, that's what we listened to, yeah.
Yeah.
Those, you know, that and punk and metal, you know. So,
Right.
Yeah.
Cypress Hill was almost considered like rock at a time. It seems like
Oh, yeah.
it's you know, it seems like they moved in the same lane as like a lot of those like the festivals of the time.
Yeah.
That were like majority rock, and then like Cypress Hill.
Exactly.
You know what
Well,
I'm
I
saying?
think, you know, and I think that's kind of where you saw a lot of that genre bending going on at the time, like the Judgment Night soundtrack. They were a part of that too.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was kind of what made me gravitate over to a lot of that style of hip hop. You know,
Okay. So the State Fair, what did you do at the State Fair?
I worked at Tom Thumb Mini Donuts.
Okay.
Yep.
Dope. So
Slinging
that
donuts.
was the first job you had?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Did it set you up for like, were you excited about that being the first job, or how did you stumble upon the gig?
Well,
if you will?
so I had a goal in mind when I set out to get that job. I'd want to get a snowboard, and my parents were like, you know, we're not just gonna go out and buy you a snowboard.
Dope.
You know, you're old enough now at this point. If you want to get a snowboard, here's how you can do it.
Yeah.
And so the State Fair was hiring, and I saw that, and I was 14 at the time. But you had to be 16 to work at the State Fair, and you know, I don't know what the statute of limitations on that is, but I really wanted the snowboard, so I just kind of fudged the numbers a little bit and got my first job. So
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
That's dope. So, all right, so you're at the State Fair, you're what, like 16, 15? No, you're 14, you said.
yeah, 14.
So you're 14 here. At the State Fair, was hip hop becoming a part of your life yet, or when did the ambition, because you're a producer and an MC as well, when did you start getting the thought of like, maybe I want to try to like make some of this music?
You know, I think it was, and actually, at the State Fair, I got to go to one of my first concerts that I went to alone.
Okay.
Someone had come by the booth, the Tom Thumb Mini Donut booth, with tickets to Def Leppard and Ugly Kid Joe.
Okay.
Right? So I went and saw this concert. You know, like, I had always loved concerts. Like, that was my thing. I love watching people perform. So, like, at that time, I wanted to be a metal singer, of course. But
Sure.
then, as I think probably 18, 19 years old, I was always going down to, like, the cities. I had friends at the U, and they had big parties, and that's when, you know, I started to run into cyphers. You know what I mean?
Oh,
And
okay.
people would be rapping, and I was like, what? You know, this was a whole nother, like, I couldn't freestyle at the time. And
Sure.
like, if you heard me rapping back then when I first started getting into these cyphers, you probably would have been like, Bona Phide, don't do it. But,
So like, what year is this roughly?
that would be about 97, 98.
Cyphers in 97.
Yep.
Okay.
You know, and then I started to get good at freestyling, and people were like, man, you know, you got some skills. You should do something with it.
So how did you get good at freestyling?
Just going through that awkward phase of being annoying with it and rapping all the time.
Okay.
You know, like, here's a kid with a new toy, and I just kind of ran with it and just
Sure.
kept doing it. And I had friends that loved the freestyle too,
Okay.
and they would encourage it. So.
Now, to like get beats to practice like, did you have instrumentals from like tape singles, or like how were you getting to practice freestyling?
So at that time, not at first, like at first it was just, like at the party,
Sure.
like people, we'd be rapping over this whatever song was playing, or even sometimes no songs playing, just freestyling in the basement,
Yeah.
But first time I started getting to rap with beats was with a friend, Nick Martin. He had bought the emcee 303 groove box.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah,
I remember those,
dude,
actually.
And I went over to his place, and he was also
Holy shit.
like, he was a dude that just loved metal too. We went to tons of concerts together and discovered a bunch of bands and stuff like that.
Groove box,
But
man.
he had this groove box, and he's like, man, he's playing these beats, and I'm like, oh man, I've been rapping. He's like, well, let's hear it, So we started doing some things, and we actually put together a few cool songs. We never put together a whole album, which is kind of sucks because he's good. He got good at producing. He just kind of he was always drawn at one side to metal, at the other side, hip hop was this new thing for him. So
yeah.
But I learned a lot. It was my first time to get into a studio. Like I could go over there. He'd play beats. I'd freestyle all night long.
Sure.
I had another friend, Eric, who was there at the time. But yeah, man.
What was his gear like back then?
It was actually pretty good. Like he had a big PA.
Okay.
So like we didn't really have any studio monitors for mixing or anything like that, but he had like these huge speakers, and like for a while there he had this warehouse space where he had these two 18-inch subs and like triple 15s on top of them, to where like it felt like we were putting on concerts in there. We just have a few friends over and get a buzz and start rapping.
Yep. Dope. So at this point then, let me see here. So high school happens. What was life like after high school? Like, what was the transition from like state fair, job, and like high school? Like, what's the next step?
Well, I always had a job, so I worked a bunch of different jobs to keep hustling, and I worked at like a restaurant for a while, did some cooking, worked at like an oil change place for a while, and then I was a security guard for a long time. That was a great job because then I, obviously like if I'm sitting at like some corporate spot where everything's shut down, like there was a lot of nights where I would just be able to put headphones on and write. So that was where I really, having that security job helped me develop as a writer big time. Because it's what I did.
And are you still in Ham Lake, or have you made the move to the cities?
At that time, I didn't move to the cities probably until my early 20s. Yep. I was out there going to college, and just kind of bouncing around studios downtown at that time. That was when I first started getting over to Carp D's studio. But yeah, so I guess in between that time, I was also going to these rap battles down at Schweitz's Saloon. It was a buddy of mine, Craig, was throwing these big parties, right? So he would basically, what he would do is he'd rent out the upstairs of a bar, and Schweitz was one of them that he had a few times.
And that was where?
East St. Paul.
On the east side.
Yep. So like Payne, I think it was right on Payne and like Case.
Sure.
Right over there.
Yep. Some east side shit for sure.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. No. It was dope though, because he like literally like he would rent out, like he'd pay the bar a little bit of money to get the room upstairs.
Yeah.
And he somehow managed to get them to sell him kegs, right?
Oh, okay.
So he would have kegs up there, and he would just charge a cover to get up there and basically have a keg party. So we'd get tons of people. Like even people at the bar would be like, "Well, I'm going up to the keg party,
that's
and
dope.
buy a glass." So and then we'd have rap battles there, like just freestyle battles. Master I was there and freestyled a lot. Fu Manchu was DJing this.
Yeah, DJ Fu Manchu.
Yeah, man, that was some of my first experience with getting out and, really getting a feel for freestyling on a stage and battling people.
And so is this still like 98, 99-ish, 97 still?
That's probably getting closer. Yeah, probably late 99, early 2000.
99, 2000. All right. Because, a lot of times when we've kicked it, we always just talk about old hip hop stories and shit. And one of the first times that we talked, I was just so surprised by just the history you have with so many people and just so many people that you got to work with and kind of be in the studio with Flynch. I'm trying to figure out the best way. So from these parties then, is this when you started to develop your kind of network of who you really started to work with?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I would say the Get Some parties are where people started to be like, hey, you know, such and such is a, you know, dope producer that you should meet. And, you know, that's where people were, you know, they introduced me to Carp. Like, Carp was trying to put together a record label, a studio at the time, and he brought in some of the, I mean, the people that he brought in ended up being some of the best talent that he could have possibly brought in.
Okay.
You know, we were young, we made mistakes, we had good stuff, we did a lot of really good things, but, you know, we were young and learning, you know what I mean? So,
yeah.
But yeah, so like if you listen to the list of people, you had, Flynch off the top for producer, but Lazerbeak. Lazerbeak was helping us with beats. Charlie Head, Rush, and you had Lowdown. You had he was an MC there. You had Mash Out. You had No, Muja, Moochy C. You know, Grimy and Camino, and like Lil Buddy would stop by.
Yeah.
You know, he was from a different crew though, so like he didn't really fuck with, you know.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
he would come through. All right, this is what these are doing, and he's gone. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's like all
Intel
kinds of
and
yeah.
shit.
You know, like you know how we were. Everybody
Clicked
back
up,
then was
man.
trying to figure out what everybody was doing and the moves we were making.
Right.
You know, that's how we did it. You know? I mean, everyone was learning from each other and trying to get to that one spot. You know.
Yeah, man.
But yeah, that getting over to like Carp D. I got the call from Carp D. You know, and they were like. You know, you should come through. You know, we heard you do good things on the mic, and we're looking to start making music. You know, and so I went to some meetings. You know, before we set up the studio, and then I started working with Lazerbeak because Camino introduced me to Lazerbeak because Lazerbeak was making beats for Camino at the time, and I remember. Making the first few tracks with Lazerbeak that I got to make with him. Yeah. He had this little MPC underneath his bunk bed.
Okay. Yeah, man.
You know, over in South Minneapolis. And I just remember going over there, and I was just, at the time, like, his beats, even then, were like, I could just tell, like, I was like, bro, you are going to have an epic career if you keep on this path, man. Yeah. Your beats are these huge sounding beats.
He's a monster, man.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Forever I'll have respect for that man because he gave me this one track called Simple Minds.
Okay.
And the beat was super dope. Like I heard that beat and I was like, I have to have that one, man.
Yeah?
He's like, man, it's yours. Like so he gave me the beat, and that was actually probably one of the first. It's the second really good song that I got, you know, basically produced for that I got to do. The first one was Mary Jane that I did with Nick.
Okay.
And that one actually got me out of getting a ticket one time.
Really?
The cop actually heard the song being performed at a bar in Coon Rapids. So
okay,
there was that time. And
all right, hang on. All right, let's slow down and pick this one apart.
Yeah, you got to hear the story.
What's the story?
So Mary Jane was the song I did. It was like, Mary Jane, just my $20 hoe.
Okay.
But for some reason, everybody loved that song wherever I performed it. So this cop had heard the song at a bar that I performed it at. Yeah. And we were outside the Red Sea getting ready to perform.
Okay.
And it was a bunch of us out in the back parking lot, you know, and all of a sudden they came rolling up on us, and everyone's, you know, doing their thing, trying to make themselves legit. Yep. And the cops are all like, lining us all up, and they're like, well, what are you guys doing out here? You know, why are you guys out here? And we're like, well, we're getting ready to do a show and blah, blah, blah. And they're like, well, what do you guys got on you? And we're like, nothing. You can say it. And they're like, okay. And all of a sudden this cop's looking at me. He's like, hey. He's like, don't I know you? I'm like, no. I hope not. And he's like, no. You sing that one song. And I was like, what song are you talking about? He's like, Mary Jane is just my $20 hoe. And I'm like, how the hell do you know that?
Damn, man.
And he's like, I saw you perform it at blah, 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 bar. And I was like, what? Okay. And he's like, no, they're good. They're actually performers. They're performers. And so we all got let go. And they're like, I don't know how you know that person, but
that's dope.
Thank you.
Hip hop in the clutch.
Yep.
Right there. Yeah, that's awesome, man. I've never heard that story before.
No, that's I don't tell that one a lot, but
yeah,
it's it was a funny moment in time.
So the Lazerbeak track, is that still floating around on a hard drive somewhere, or do you still have that?
I probably do have it on a hard drive somewhere. I'd have to do some digging to find it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely. Actually, no, you know what? No, it is. It's on the game plan.
Oh, it's out.
Yeah, it
okay,
is.
Cool.
But I don't know if it's online. I haven't searched like YouTube for it or anything
right.
like that. But I do have it on CD.
Okay.
I do have a copy of that one. So
you should definitely let me check that out, man.
Yeah, I will for sure.
So, before we go into this first break, it's gonna be a song that you said was produced by Flynch, right?
Yeah.
So, unfortunately, Flynch passed away just recently.
Yeah.
It's been just it doesn't even feel real to me yet, in a way.
Yeah.
And I'm still processing it. But why don't we get into how you guys met? Because you credit him for being one of the biggest influences on your production, so it sounds like you started out rapping, right? And the production, was that because you started to hang out with Flynch, or was Flynch a big part in you starting to mess with beats?
Oh yeah. Yeah, because he knew that I had music in me. He knew that I could play. He knew that that I just, I wanted to be a rapper, so he was trying to facilitate that.
Yeah.
But when I started to get show that I wanted to learn production, he was excited.
Okay.
He was like, "Oh yeah, let's make you do this then."
So, break down how you guys met in the first place.
So, Carp D Studios, like I said, he all of a sudden I'm going in once the studio's up and running, and Carp's in there with the PlayStation, and he's got this disc in there, right? Mm-hmm. And there's these. It's basically, I think the first track I heard was Jay-Z rapping, right?
Okay.
But the beat was not the beat that, that track was. I can't even remember what track it was. Yeah. But this beat was doing just crazy swing, and instruments were flying all over the place. And I'm like, who is this?
Yeah.
Who's production? He's like, this is the new producer that's coming in. He's like, Flynch. He's like, he just got back from Chicago. He was producing TMC and Concrete Mob and all those guys. Yeah, and I was just like, what? Oh man, so I I started to strategically place myself at the studio at times I knew he would be there. And finally, like at one point, like we crossed paths, and he's like, hey, what's up? I'm Flynch, and I was like, I'm Bona Phide. He's like, oh, I heard about you. And I was like, what? You heard about me? I'm like, no, I heard about you, bro. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And he's like, yeah, no, we should build sometime. And he was heading in, and I was gonna head out, but I was like, you know what? Let me just turn back around. I started hanging out with him, and it just got to a point where like everybody wanted Flynch beats, right? So in order for me to really get any, I had, there was times literally where I would like pass out on the couch at the studio after being out all night at the shows, and go back to the studio, pass out there, because I knew Flynch would be there in the morning making beats. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it was like I wanted to be there when he was making beats. So I'd wake up to him just making dope beats, and I'd just start rapping. And if he didn't want me on the track, he wouldn't put me on it. But there was a lot of times he was like, all right, why don't you get in the booth and we'll start working on that one, and that's how I started to get beats from him,
Okay. So then, with that then, because you guys remained close, I mean, up until his final days, when did the beat collaboration start between you two?
Well, for me actually starting to produce them probably about 6 years ago.
Okay, so it's actually fairly in the most, it's recent.
Yeah,
if you will. It's not back in like the battle rap, the 97 cypher days.
No, back then I didn't like. I had enough people that wanted to make beats with and make tracks with me that I didn't really put a lot of focus into production, and then of course the band happened after that.
Yeah, Blackbelt Jonzin.
Yeah,
dope. All right, well, why don't we go ahead and get into this first track? Why don't you talk a little bit about this song?
Okay, so the first track we're gonna check out is called Honesty. It's off Head Nod Theory Volume 1. Basically, me and Flynch made most of that one together, and I also had a few other guest producers on that album. But this track in particular, it just really highlights the process of what he taught me. Because we sat and made this jazz track, right, for about 3.5 hours in a night. Like, just spent all this time making this jazz track, and it was a dope, little track, and we since lost that track. But we took that track that we took 3.5 hours to make and put it through the MPC.
Oh, wow.
And sped it up and created what turned out to be the melody of this beat.
Okay.
And so we flipped it, and people always ask, like, what did you sample to get that? And I'm like, we sampled ourselves. And like, what do you mean? We spent 3.5 hours recording a jazz track, which we then sampled into the MPC. Yeah. And it's, like for me, I was like, oh, wow. Like this is a whole nother process on achieving that sound that you want without doing something that, that you can't put out because you're going to have to pay somebody else to do it, or they're going to say, no, you can't license it or anything like that.
Right.
So it's a licensable sampled track that we took the time to create.
That's dope, man. Well, yeah, this is Organized Grind, the podcast, episode 45 with Bona Phide. This is Honesty. We will
Organized Grind with Orikal. Recorded live at Grassroots Studios in South Minneapolis.
Yeah, I got a story for you. Check it out. Car alarms going off, still weaving in traffic. Hoping I can get by, but he ain't trying to have it. Another mad victim, waiting on standby. An unlucky soul just happening to walk by. Can see it in my mind, clear as today. I remember reaching out, but it was way too late. What I saw next, man, it changed my mind forever. Focus on what's right, stop trying to be clever. Honesty, loyalty, trust, and respect. Most of all, your honor's what you must protect. We ain't guaranteed tomorrow, no need to make sense. All this time we have is borrowed, so make your time dense. Don't let it get too heavy, man, you gotta let it go. An eye for an eye is a blind man's road. As your story unfolds, know your trajectory. So when you pave the way, you can do it respectfully. Honesty, loyalty, trust, and respect. Most of all, your honor's what you must protect. We ain't guaranteed tomorrow, no need to make sense. All this time we have is borrowed, so make your time dense. Honesty, loyalty, trust, and respect. Most of all, your honor's what you must protect. We ain't guaranteed tomorrow, no need to make sense. All this time we have is borrowed, so make your time dense. Been a hair trigger away from drowning in pain. Time to chase the darkness, I was standing in the rain. When the chill goes deep, climbing up looks steep. If I could just rest my head, I just need a little sleep. Since new day dawns, I'm still hanging around. Find a reason to smile, stay above ground. So much of what we face is a test on our reaction. So when the darkness comes, don't let it pick up traction. Anger, fear, jealousy, and hate, just a few of life's demons that we have to face. We see it in the media, we see it in the mirror. We're seen for what it is, it all becomes clear. Don't try to change the world or lead it astray. Lead by your example, it'll follow anyways. When you're setting your bar, make sure you set it high. When you're looking at my bar, leave you thinking he must fly. Anger, fear, jealousy, and hate, just a few of life's demons that we have to face. We see it in the media, we see it in the mirror. When seen for what it is, it all becomes clear. Anger, fear, jealousy, and hate, just a few of life's demons that we have to face. We see it in the media, we see it in the mirror. When seen for what it is, it all becomes clear. The lights in the city, I'm beautiful at night. Creepers in the shadows trying to keep out of sight. I'm driving by, out of sight, out of mind. I keep my eyes open for the spot I'm trying to find. No free parking, damn shit, no free lunch. At the end of the day, I got my grocery funds. I'm happy with my spot, I can hang my hat. Can't nobody tell me it gets better than that. I'm an average man, gone according to plan. When I make up my mind, it's not an if but a can. Impossible's a fallacy, figure it out. If you can see it in your mind, you could bring it about. Not a shadow of a doubt, come on, you could do this. Collect yourself, find the calm, release the coolness. Stepping up and out, no one else but you can make the right decision to stay tried and true. Honesty, loyalty, trust and respect. Most of all, your honor's what you must protect. We ain't guaranteed tomorrow, no need to make sense. All this time we have is borrowed, so make your time dense. Honesty, loyalty, trust and respect. Most of all, your honor's what you must protect. We ain't guaranteed tomorrow, no need to make sense. All this time we have is borrowed, so make your time dense.
This is Organized Grind, the podcast with Orikal, Uno, chilling with Bona Phide. You just heard a song called Honesty by Bona Phide. So you were explaining the process of making that beat. It was super fun to listen to. Couple of questions just to break it down.
Yeah.
Just to get on some producer nerd talk here.
Oh yeah.
So you had said that you guys originally composed the jazz song. So all of that, all of the elements were played at first then, right?
Yep.
So every instrument that you heard there was played first.
That was us playing, yep.
And then you ran it through the MPC.
Yep.
So at that point, did he then chop it, or did you guys chop what you did and make it into chops, or did you keep the same loop, or how was the construction like for this new?
Yeah, we basically just took that the jazz track and and made like a few different little chops that just kind of like made up the basis of then what we took, and then layer drums over that.
Okay.
And then we started playing more elements back into it. So like we added like that guitar that you hear at the end is added on. I added that on after the fact.
Is that just keyboard, or is that a real guitar?
That one's a real guitar actually that time. Yep.
That was you playing?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yep.
Oh, okay.
Every once in a while, I'll play on the guitar if I'm not lazy, but I can play it on the keyboard. You know, like I can create a guitar on the keyboard real quick too. So it's just like, but yeah, you know, like I like to play.
Okay, and then there was one more sound that I heard, and it was like a bass. It's like a bass line, but not quite a bass line, but it's like the bottom end of the do 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 do. What is that? Is that a bass, or is that like a different instrument that you just made the bass line?
So the reason why it sounds weird, I think, is because there's bass in the jazz track that we sampled. So that kind of mixes in with more bass that we lay, you know, like because we always layer in just some like weird off.
Okay,
bass,
so is that like a stand-up bass then on the original jazz track?
Probably. Like it's probably
stand-up sounding.
Yeah, stand-up sound that we found probably. Yeah.
Dope. That shit was tight, man.
Thank you, man. Thank you. But it just kind of demonstrates kind of like the out of the box thinking that Flynch had when it came to making beats.
Yeah.
Like there was one time when I got my machine set up and all that, you know, and I had a bunch of new just banging stuff, right?
Yeah.
Wanted to make a beat out of the kits that I'd got. I'm like, couldn't wait to show him. He's like, no. This is what we're gonna do today. He's like, we're gonna make a sample beat. I'm like, oh, bro, you know I don't like making sample beats. He's like, no, hear me out. You're not listening to me. And I was like, what? All right, what are we gonna do? He's like, you're gonna sample this book, and he handed me a book off my bookshelf, right? And I was like, what do you mean we're gonna sample the book? And he's like, this is your percussions right here. So he's like, you're gonna make a kick, you're gonna make a snare, and then he's like, we'll get some keys out, and we're gonna make, you know, some jingles with the keys, you know, to get your cymbals going.
Yeah.
And so I sat there with the book, eating humble pie, like, all right, we're not gonna use all my kits. We're gonna make this beat.
Yeah.
And it turned out to be dope, and once again another lesson in like you can have all these shiny fun toys when it comes to music, but really you can take anything in the room and make a track out of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Producers like that were cut from that cloth, like that's maybe the second time that I've heard a producer, and that's from the old school, that can take anything, a water drop from the sink or whatever, and because they come from the days of you can't just download this sound, you gotta make your sounds.
You gotta make it. Yeah.
The days of making your sounds, like that's a lost art for sure.
Yeah, there's some people that are still doing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I'm definitely keeping it alive now. Now that Flynch has passed and it's time to carry the torch. Like it just made all those lessons. Like they'll be with me forever now. But now they're like way more important. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's like I have a legacy to carry on. You know what I mean? He handed me something and I got to run with it. And that's just kind of how I feel. Yeah. Based off of where we're at,
Yeah. What are some other jewels that you can think of that Flynch dropped on you?
Just not being afraid to go back and redo things. Mm-hmm. Like don't be locked into one thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you do something and you don't feel like it's what it needs to be, scrap it and go back and do it again. Like there was times where like he gave me this super dope beat and he's like, I want you to do this with it, right? And I would go back and I would write a track and I'd come in to record and we'd start laying down bars and he would be like, yo, come out here. What are you doing, man? What are you doing? Like, at the time it was me, this cocky MC, and he's telling me, that's not the right verse for it. And I'm like, what do you, like that can be crushing, to hear that. But like when I would go back, I'd be that, he'd instill that, like almost, he'd make you angry, but not like angry. You know what I mean? You're frustrated. Like I need to go get this right. This is his beat. And if I want to be on it, like I got to get it right. So I go back, rewrite that. Like literally, I remember one track that 3 times. Right, but the third time I went back with that track, and he smiled, and he's like, "Dude, you got it. Like that's the one."
Right.
Like then I knew, But that's you have to take those steps, and if you're not willing to work that hard to make your stuff as good as it needs to be, then what are you doing it for, right?
Yeah.
And he really put that into me, and that's like I have a perfectionist attitude towards myself, but now like it's more like it's more refined. Like I'm not cocky about how I do my stuff now. It's like I'll listen if I know you've got something to say. Like someone like Flynch, you have to, you have to listen to what they're saying. If you don't take their advice, you're a fool,
Right. Yeah, man. I only got to know him within the last couple years, so I feel like that's only such a brief time that I got to talk to him and everything. But even those few experiences that I have with him, I have an EP recorded on his beats that I'm sitting on trying to figure out what to do with. But just those few experiences of talking to him, like I'll never forget those conversations. Like it was never just a whatever conversation with him. Like it was like you always walked away like at least a half an hour to an hour of like comprehension time of what you just talked about with him, but
every time we got together it would be about 3.5 hours of talking about life before you even got to the music, but then by the time you got to the music everything was out of the way, so you were ready to start creating and man, since he can't be here now, I mean, is there anything that you feel like what's the message that you feel like he would want to spread to an audience as far as his legacy goes? I think it's just, go after what you're passionate about, Don't worry about, all the popular things, you know. Don't worry about material things, you know. All that stuff, it'll come if you work hard enough, you know what I mean? You'll be successful, but that's not the be all and the end all of chasing your passions, you know, because Flynch never made it to a point where he was a rich man, you know what I mean? But he gave a lot of people a lot of him, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
and
for sure.
He put it all out there. Like when he made stuff, it was amazing, you know. When he took the time to work with you, he was focused on you. He taught you, you know. So it's just like, you know, take what you're doing seriously. Take yourself seriously. You know, be passionate about what you're doing, you know, and all of that will shine through in your work.
Yeah, word up. Rest in peace, Flynch. So from meeting Flynch now, you're in the studio. I feel like this is around the time when the band was starting to come around, right? The band Blackbelt Jonzin was what, like 2001, 2, 3, somewhere around there?
Yeah, 2002, 2003, right around in
Dinky
there.
Towner was popping.
Yep.
I remember we were playing shows together. I was just a teenager and watching all of you guys fucking kill it in the Dinky Towner, and you only needed
I remember seeing you at the
people.
Dinky Towner, and I don't even think you were old enough to be there. I'm like, how the fuck did you get in here? What's up?
It was always the flyest shit to get paid, sneak a drink, and then get kicked out with a wad of cash in my pocket. Like, all right, well, I'm done. So, cool. I'm going to go home now. But, so Blackbelt Jonzin, man, why don't you talk about how that formulated?
Man, so, Carp D Studios, right?
Okay. The hub.
That was we were in the main building over there. Like, that was, it was the Taylor Sound building. And there was metal bands, there was rap studios, there was blues bands, there was rock bands.
Sure.
Every band under the sun you could think of was practicing at this place, right?
Yeah.
So my neighbors were Root City Band.
Okay.
And well, it wasn't there. It was, oh my God, 6'5" or 5 foot. It was a dance studio, but they knew the Root City guys, and I had known the Root City guys through another mutual friend, Aaron, and I'd gone out to their gigs a few times, but it started to come about where I would go out and I'd freestyle when they were out performing.
Okay.
I would go to their practice space when they're jamming and drop freestyles there. But I jammed with them a lot. You know, I freestyled with them a lot, and over time, some of the members came and changed out, and one of their drummers, Peter Day, wasn't drumming with them anymore. And I ran into him downtown. He's like, yo, you still doing hip hop? And I'm like, of course. And he's like, bro, I've always wanted to play drums in a hip hop band. He's like, if we can put it together, are you interested? And I'm like, dude, are you kidding me? I love rapping over your drums. You know, I've already done it a bunch of times. Like, hell yeah, let's, see what we can do. And he knew Dan Ristrom. And Dan Ristrom now is Dan Ristrom in the Big Throwdown.
Okay.
So,
I think I've seen that name before.
They play all over town. You know, they've been on he's a really funky bass player. At the time, he was just like, I know he wanted to sing, but he was mainly a bass player. Came in with us and just killed it. You know, and we went through a couple guitarists before we got to Mitch. Surly B was an early guitarist for us. And then we had Father Time on the keys. Idara was the other front man with me.
Okay.
He was from the band Inebriation, and he had started coming out and helping me do some of my solo stuff. So when I got the band, I was like, bro, you want to come and co-front with me? He's like, yes, of course. And so we did that. And I remember I reached out to XCal too, and XCal was, it was kind of an X factor because he hadn't really been out with a lot of people at the time, and it was like, bro, are you interested? And he's like, a band? He's like, I'll do that. And I was like, oh my god,
that's tight.
XCal's gonna come and join. It was like Voltron forming, you know what I mean? Like, it was all these pieces coming together, and it started off, that was the core: Father Time, Peter, Dan, Idara, Mitch, and XCal. That was the first round of Blackbelt Jonzin, and we got it, and actually it's kind of funny because a lot of the first tracks that we did were based off of some of Flynch's beats.
Okay.
Yep.
Cool.
So that was kind of cool, and that Flynch was super excited to see that. But,
yeah, that's dope.
but yeah, we just started doing these shows and jamming, and it just got bigger and bigger, and we get, the tighter we got as a band, the bigger the shows got.
Sure.
And,
So, all right. So this was kind of your first real band, then? Would you say?
oh yeah, for sure.
So, what were some of the learning curve experiences you had of working now with a band, as far as having to practice, as far as shows, payment? Like, what were some of the unexpected jewels that you kind of came across while being in this band?
Jewels, I would say it started off coal and turned into jewels. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You had it's tough. It's tough to run. Like
Talk about it.
I had to organize everything. You know what I mean? I was the booking guy for us. You know what I mean? So because I had been booking myself as a solo artist, and that was easy because I only had to worry about feeding myself. You know what I mean? But then all of a sudden you're getting into this area where you've got 7 different people coming out to the show to perform with you. You've got to figure out how to get money for all these people and make it worth the time for a drummer to bring all of his gear out and play at a night. So that was it. Really taught me how to go out and go after and sell us.
So your first experiences trying to book a show and the payment thing comes up, did you have to kind of learn how to kind of talk to the venues about your band in order to ask, or how did you build the confidence or the soft skills to, because you guys started to book some pretty great shows. So at some point you had to have gotten the hang of it. What were some of the lessons that kind of taught you maybe instead of approaching it like this, I should approach it like this, and then you realize that worked for you, kind of thing,
Well, I think it was more of understanding the value of a band. You know what I mean? It's harder in hip hop. You know what I mean? If you're, especially as a hip hop artist, to get a lot of money out of these venues, just when you tell them that you're doing hip hop, it's tough. But when you tell them you have a full band, you know what I mean? Then they're like, oh, okay. But then the onus went back onto us to play longer. We had to play longer, so we had more jammy stuff. That type of thing. So it was developing the value. But then going out, people had heard about us. There was little legitimate buzz. So when I hit up venues, they knew who we were. And we ended up just getting better and better gigs. And if you get 700 people into a venue, you're gonna get a decent amount of money for that. So it was worth it to do it for a while. But yeah, it was taught me a lot. A lot of organizing, having to call 7 different people. Once to lay the groundwork for when we're gonna get together, and then one person or 2 people can't do it, but they can do X, Y, and Z. So then you're writing that down on a piece of paper and calling everyone back. All right, we can't do this day at this time, but we got to do this, or this. Does this work? And trying to fit all those puzzle pieces, and get everyone together. It's not an easy task, especially when every one of those puzzle pieces also has their own personality, ego, things going on. It's fun, but it's also a lot of work. So it's I love playing with bands. It's probably playing with musicians has a whole different energy. But sometimes doing hip hop with a DJ, it's a lot easier, and you get that vibe too. When you get the so it's like
So I mean, so if you had to choose one or excuse me, the other, which one would you go with?
I would say probably a mix. Where my regular.
Oh no, man, no. We need there's either the instruments are all burned to crisp, and you're never seeing a keyboard again. Or no DJ, no vinyl, but you have all of the instruments in the world. So absolutely no track set, or all instruments. I think that's the same thing. I'm kind of just rambling.
I see where you're going with it.
Which one though? If you had to go.
Well, if the situation were perfect, right? Like, so all the puzzle pieces, we're saying like two perfect rides going down the road. All right.
Yep. Hypotheticals.
In that scenario, I would probably go with the band.
Okay.
Yep.
Word. Yeah, man. Yeah, there is.
Because you can always have a DJ in a band.
There you go. All right.
So hey, and
also both the situation.
And before I forget to even mention, DJ Green was the second DJ.
Oh shit.
In Blackbelt Jonzin.
Shout out Greenery.
So and
Spellbound
then
family.
And then later on we also brought in Aaron Wiener on trumpet, and we also brought in Danny Hughes on sax. So we had probably one of the most amazing horn sections in Minneapolis at the time.
We're going to get into our last commercial break, but why don't you tell the audience, so you went from, grinding it out, hungry, to getting these big crowds. What were some of your favorite experiences of the Blackbelt Jonzin era? And when did Blackbelt Jonzin kind of decide to stop their run, if you will?
So some of the favorite moments, we got to perform. We got to open up for Slug at Foundation.
Okay, the Foundation.
Yep. Prof and Roswell were on that show. They played right before us. We played, and then Slug came out and did his set right after ours.
That's dope.
That was kind of unexpected.
Yeah.
It was like at the time I was like, whoa. But that whole show, like, you had Big Quarters on there. You had I Self Divine.
Foundation was a cool spot, man.
It was dope. It was
cool.
super cool. Like, I love that place. But yeah, the energy of that show, that was one of my all time favorite ones. Just because everyone that performed that night was amazing to me. Like, I'm a fan of everyone that performed that night, so it was fun.
Yeah.
That one, also in 2006, we performed at the Fine Line on Halloween. And I got off the stage, and I looked over, and I saw these guys walking up to us, and I go to my drummer. I was like, those guys got some good costumes on. He's like, who? And I pointed out these guys, and he's like, I don't think they're wearing costumes, bro. I'm like, but they look just like the Foo Fighters.
Oh, shit.
And he's like, no, I think that is the Foo Fighters. Right as Dave Grohl's coming up and shakes his friggin' hand and goes, that was a dope set. You're a pocket drummer. Let me buy you a shot. And he's just like looking at me like a little schoolgirl as he's walking to the bar, like, Dave Grohl's buying me a shot, so that was like to get props. Like, basically, we're like, how did you even know we were playing here tonight? And he said, he basically told us that his manager asked around town what was going on, and everyone said to go see Blackbelt Jonzin and Leroy Smokes at the Fine Line.
Damn, man. That's fire, dude.
There was those two. Another great moment, Underground Music and Fashion Show.
Oh, yeah.
Number 5, I think we were on.
Underground Music and Fashion. Where was that at?
That was
that
at the
Quest?
No, that was at the Fine Line too. Yeah.
Oh, at the Fine Line. Okay.
Yeah, it was at the Fine Line, and they had this big catwalk to this like center stage out in the middle of the crowd.
Oh, wow.
And so I got to spend had the whole band behind me on the stage, and I was out on this catwalk with crowd all around me almost the whole entire show. And that was a dope one because like Unknown Prophets, Musab, Melody Beats, I think who else was on that one? But I mean, right there, those guys. I mean, there was another stellar lineup.
Yeah, man.
We played a lot of great shows at the Fine Line.
That's
the
dope.
Fine Line was fun.
So it sounds like you guys, had the mission and you did it. When did the momentum kind of stop, or when did one of the members, organizing the puzzle pieces, did one of the puzzle pieces, just too many of them fall apart? Or
well, Dan Ristrom ended up moving on in about, I think, 2007.
Okay.
Right around there. He wanted to pursue, the throwdown. He wanted to be the front man. He wanted to sing.
Oh, sure.
And he was way too talented to hold back as just a bass player. You know what I mean? So his decision to leave was understandable. But he, to his credit, and dude's amazing. He went out and found us a dope bass player to replace him, Johnny the Hat, who came in, and he ended up being our final bass player. But we did a bunch of shows, but we didn't put out enough albums. You know what I mean? Like, we didn't have enough recorded. We couldn't get organized enough to finish all that side of things. So after a while, the shows started to, people were looking for more from us. And at that point, we weren't we weren't producing enough. So
Sure.
I think it just kind of, it got to a point where everyone started to go their own ways, and we started shifting. Me and Idara started shifting over to Slow Spokes.
Slow Spokes.
Yep.
A
Ian.
whole other
And
segment
Ian,
to get into.
But yeah, Ian had been brought, basically got involved with us. He had done a bunch of shows with me as a solo artist, but also he was, if you don't know, Ian EMS Anderson, one of the best sound men in town.
Yeah.
He is a big part of why Blackbelt Jonzin sounded great. And I mean, like, he literally came out to that show at the Foundation and mixed us for that night.
That's dope.
And he didn't have to do any of that, but that's what made me want to work with Ian really bad. And as a producer, he was making ridiculous beats at the time. So
yeah, it's almost wild to think about him as a rapper, like him and Green with the album, because they were popping when they were popping, it sounded good, obviously, the quality of the music sounded great.
The mix was always great.
But yeah, man. So all right, I know that I said that we were going to get into that, into the commercial break, and we are starting to run just a little bit long, but I definitely, Slow Spokes is such a movement that, there's no way that we can't talk about it. So, from Blackbelt Jonzin to Slow Spokes, then, it seems like is where the next point in your story goes.
Yep.
All right, well, how did Slow Spokes come to be?
So Slow Spokes started off, we had two houses in Minneapolis right next to each other. Ian had a house, and then me and Mitch, the guitarist from Blackbelt Jonzin, had a house that we were renting. And we all got into riding BMX bikes. It was me, Ian, Idara would come out sometimes, Chops, Green, DJ Green.
Yeah.
And we'd all just ride BMXs around town. And we were just you know what? You guys make beats. Ian raps, I rap, Idara raps. We should all do a group called Slow Spokes and talk about partying and riding bikes, because that's what we like to do all the time.
Yeah.
And we just started working on that. Ian had obviously tons of beats on deck, so he was just all right, let's start picking out beats and start working on this. And we got Shorty. Shorty MC was involved at that point. We brought him in, and then I think first it was mostly me and Ian started doing shows as Slow. We were the first, where we performed as Slow Spokes, and then we brought them in and decided to start doing an album, because we're kind of doing a mix of our own solo tracks and stuff that we rap together on.
Yeah.
But then we started bringing Idara and Shorty in, and Shorty and Ian decided at that point to build a studio. And they built this studio over North Minneapolis, and that's where we started recording the bulk of what became the Slow Spokes project.
Okay. So where does the name Slow Spokes come from? Who was the first one to coin that?
Ian.
Oh,
for
okay.
sure. Yep. Ian came up with Slow Spokes, and just kind of it came from us cruising around. We'd cruise down to the bar on bikes, because we didn't want to drive, but we had all these BMX bikes, and why not just cruise on down? And we weren't racing to the bar, we were rolling on Slow Spokes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and
dope.
so that's we're Slow Spokes. It just kind of fits.
Okay. So what were some of the highlights of the Slow Spokes days?
Well, we got to do a lot of really cool shows, for sure. So let's see. Just trying to run through some of the stuff here. We got to open up for. We did a lot of shows with Prof and Roswell.
Okay.
We did. Well, I think we did the 7th Street entry with Prof after it became just Prof. We did another show, a private party with him, and that was probably 2013 or 14. But
wow.
We got to play with Del the Funky Homo Sapien at the Loft, and that was a really cool party because it had all the really well-known graph artists in town.
Wow.
Down there doing body paint on models. They had a skate park going on during that show, and it was nuts.
Yeah.
I think Wide Eyes was there. Zach from Cancer performed at that one.
Nice.
So that was a really fun show. We got to open up for Capadonna, King Magnetic. Block McLeod, all at the 7th Street entry again.
Nice.
On that tour. So that was a really cool show.
That's dope.
Yeah, it was crazy. I think we were downstairs and Slug showed up to that one.
Okay.
It was like out of the blue. I'm walking down the stairs, and all of a sudden he's like, "Hey, what's up?" And I'm like, "Whoa, hey, what's up?" And he's like, he was looking for King Mag because I guess him and King Mag had a track.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, it was crazy. Like, but that was a fun show. And let's see, what else did we do? We did all kinds of stuff.
That's dope, man.
But yeah, man, a lot of fun shows. We played a lot of skate parks. So like we played a lot of the BMX tournaments and stuff like that.
Yeah,
It was really cool to be involved in that whole the whole BMX community.
That's dope.
Yep. No, I was gonna keep going. I just thought we played South by Southwest.
Oh, for real?
Yep. And
Okay.
actually, some of the BMX, some of the guys that were competing at the time came down there, were hitting dirt jumps down there. So we got to hang out with a bunch of riders down there. We got to open up for Nappy Roots at in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Nice.
We played there on tour after South by Southwest. Yeah.
Wow, man.
So that was
That's dope. So in the band, it sounds like you were kind of more in the manager seat, if you will. What was your position in Slow Spokes?
I did a lot of the booking,
So
Tony helped a little bit with that too. He got us some gigs, but I did the bulk of the booking, I would say, because Ian and Shorty are really good on the engineer side of things, and they did a lot of the mixing and all that.
Yeah.
And Ian did all the producing mostly.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if we had any of Shorty's beats. I'd have to ask him on there, but I know that he was always involved in the mixing because he's really good with the mixing too. Him and Ian are both,
Sure.
that's their thing.
Have you ever thought about, and my stutter is killing me on the episode right now, so excuse me, but have you ever thought about doing the booking just as a main gig, like just booking for people?
No,
like, it
actually,
seems like you've developed a really good skill at it.
Yeah, I mean, it's to me, it's the most draining part of the whole process.
Word.
Like, because it's not creative, it's not performing, it's not what I want to be focused on.
Sure.
Like, if I could offload any aspect of music, it would be the booking and dealing with all that.
Yeah.
Because I'm good at selling anything, except for myself. Like,
wow.
That's kind of how I feel. Like,
yeah. I mean, it's really cool to like hear that you developed this really good skill at something you absolutely don't want to do. Like it's pretty cool.
Necessity. You know what I mean? Like, there's
true,
only
man.
one way you're going to get to Carnegie Hall, and that's practice. And if you can't practice, you're never going to get anywhere. And the only way I could get on stage was to, basically have my hand out. Like, I had to go to gigs. I had to, I had to meet people. I had to network, and I don't mind doing all that. But, like, if I'm being honest, I'm more of an introverted extrovert, to where, like, all that social energy for me, like, ends up being more exhausting than it is fun when you're trying to, like, achieve what you like the money you want, the date you want to play. No, I don't want to play a weekday. I'm looking for a weekend, that type of thing. Like, I want to, you just have to do so much negotiating. Whereas, like, going into the studio, there's no negotiating.
Right.
You're just working on what you want to create.
Freedom, man.
Yes.
Like, it's breathing fresh air. And
when you get to get up on
dope.
stage and perform what you've just spent all this time creating, like, that's another high that you can't create anywhere else, But there's literally zero high other than oh my God, we got booked for this. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, those are the cool parts of it. Like, when you get that message saying, hey, can you come on and open up for Cool Keith? He's coming back into town.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that's a good message to get.
Right.
So that's the side of it that's rewarding, but it is exhausting too.
Word. All right, man. I'm gonna get into this commercial break, and then we'll catch up with what you're doing nowadays, man, in the recent days. So, this is Organized Grind, the podcast. I'm Orikal Uno. We got Bona Phide in the building, episode 45. We'll be right back. Hey, what's up, world? This is Orikal Uno on the check-in. Are you looking for a gift idea for a loved one or maybe yourself? Why don't you let me paint you a custom-painted canvas, 12-inch vinyl, or skateboard deck? All you have to do is give me the names and the colors of your choice, and I'll have it done, painted, and shipped within a week of your order. For canvases, I start at 11 by 14 inches and up, 12-inch vinyl records, just like the records that you would put on a turntable and listen to. They are records from my personal collection that I just don't want no more, so I'm turning them into art. And then skateboard decks, I offer just the deck or a fully built skateboard option. And once again, that's free shipping in the US. If you're interested, check out graffrootsmedia.com. That is GRAFF as in fresh, ROOTSMEDIA.com. Graffrootsmedia.com. Thank you for listening to Organized Grind, the podcast, and your continued support. Peace and love. Yeah. Holler at me if you need a custom painted canvas, skateboard deck, or a 12-inch vinyl. Painting them. Shout out to my guy Dro. My guy Sky Dro. Just picked one up. But yo, this is Organized Grind, the podcast with Orikal Uno. We got Bona Phide in the building, talking all this beautiful Twin Cities history. We were just touching on Slow Spokes there, which puts us like around like 2013, 2014.
Yeah, we started off. I think we stopped right around 2013, 2014, maybe 2015, and a little bit.
2015.
Yeah.
Okay.
Started transitioning from that to Food for Thought.
Food for Thought.
Yeah, which is another band.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now this one I'm not aware of.
Oh yeah. So okay, cool.
Yeah.
Food for Thought was a bunch of the guys that I got a job at Guitar Center.
Okay.
Selling, and where I started to learn pro audio and mixing and all that. Working at Guitar Center, it was funny because I don't know, can't even remember how Danny actually got my number. It was like looking up a customer or something like that, and that's who he was trying to call, and he accidentally called me, right? And he was like, "Hey, I heard you're a rapper, and I wanted to see if you want to come out and rap with this band, and that I'm putting together, and I heard that you'd be good." And he didn't. I don't think that he thought that. I'm trying to remember how it went, but
yeah.
For some reason, when I got there, it wasn't who he thought that he was meeting. He's
right.
like, "Oh, okay, well, let's do this." So like, it was funny, but I had it was Jamie Thompson, Chu Fang Zhang, and Danny Melgarejo, and yeah, that was the beginning of Food for Thought.
Okay.
Jamie Thompson was this crazy kid who played keys at the same time as he was playing the machine.
Wow.
So he's playing drums. He was our drummer,
Yeah.
our first drummer, and playing keyboards at the same time.
That's nuts.
So I mean, like, I saw him able to do that, and I was like, Danny was on bass, and he was dope. Chu was really good. I had found out that he had actually played with me at what was that place called? The Annex. You remember the Annex?
Yeah, I remember the Annex.
Yep. He had a band called Delicious Venom at the time.
Delicious Venom.
And they played with us. And
who else was in that group? I knew the emcee. There's the emcee
what's her
in the
name?
group. Delicious Venom. I haven't heard that name in forever.
But yeah, I was like, oh, I remember you guys. You guys were awesome. And so like, I had to be in this band. So it
wow.
And we did things. We actually did a lot of really cool shows too. That was actually the first band that I didn't have to do a lot of the booking.
That's nice.
Chu got us a lot of gigs. Like Chu and I know Danny got us some. But yeah, we all kind of like I threw in a few gigs when I could get them for us. But everybody participated. We ended up bringing in a drummer down the line, Colin Gibbs, and he was really dope too. Young kid, pocket drummer.
Nice.
Doing his thing. And yeah, we did a lot of shows, had a lot of fun.
Sure. If you were to compare the sound of Food for Thought to something, like what would you say you guys sounded like, roughly?
That's a tough one because, these guys were not strictly hip-hop, you know what I mean? Like, so they were all over the place. It'd be really hard. I'd be hard-pressed to find something that we were like, because
anything comparable or like a sound, like what was the sound like?
The sound was like blues, rock,
okay,
funk, jazz.
Okay.
You know, like some of it ballad too. Like it was just, you know, like
okay.
Jamie was an amazing piano player. So like he would come up with these really dope piano parts that we'd just all kind of build around, you know. And it was, you know, they were some talented cats. But yeah, it was. You couldn't really nail it down. Like, I couldn't think of any band that really sounded like what we were doing at the time. So I was really kind of proud of it, you know?
Yeah, that's dope. So then from Food for Thought, I mean, me and you started to kind of get up and work together, like 2018, maybe? 2018?
Yep.
I mean, like I said, I had known you for 16 years at that point, 15 years, but, you know, we never made the connection. I remember Joe Sadowski. I used to kick it with him a long time ago.
Oh, yeah.
And he was big on you guys, man. Like, he was a huge supporter of Slow Spokes.
Yeah, Joe goes back to, like, the inebriation days of knowing him, you know, like, early 2000s. And then he, you know, I watched him develop and get really into learning, you know, like, the first time he got, like, Fruity Loops, you know, he's so excited, you know, and then he took it to where that man is teaching classes at IPR. You know what I mean? Like he's, you know, he's.
Shout out to Joe and his whole family, and he's a good guy. We used to kick it like 2010, 2011, so it's been a long time since I've seen him. But yeah, man. But I just remember always hearing your name and seeing you live, and then when we finally. Like O'Gara's, I feel like O'Gara's was where we would always be playing shows there, and I'd always be like, and I'd always see you kill it at O'Gara's.
That was another really outside. Those guys, Pete,
outside.
Yeah, that was another. Right. Those guys hosted a lot of shows out there.
Yeah, that's right.
Monthly.
But yeah. Like, so I always like associate with you like as the dope rapper at that I would see at O'Gara's like
thank you, brother.
all of the time and shit. And so when we finally got the chance to get some beats together and you gave me beats for the project and shit, that shit was tight. But so from Food for Thought, then was that still happening when we started kicking it, or when did Food for Thought?
No. It had fallen. It kind of it fell by the. It didn't last as long as I wanted it to. It kind of fell by the wayside. We got a lot of recording done. We had a whole project done, and then as things go, sometimes people got to go their own ways. And that's what kind of happened with us. And no hard feelings at all. I love all those guys. You know what I mean? But we just had to go our separate ways. That was a devastating one for me because I thought. Like here we go. Like I got a band again. We're gonna, gonna do some things, and but that's the one that really, like when that happened, it really made me produce. Like it really made me want to learn that. It really made me go, hey Flynch, all right, I'm ready. Like let's learn, and that's when Flynch really poured all of those lessons into me. So, everything happens for a reason. I don't think I'd be the producer that I am right now.
Right.
If that wouldn't have happened. So, you can't regret the things that happen. They're all gonna build, and you just gotta learn from them.
Stepping stones.
Yeah, exactly. You're leveling up, and I had to level up because at this point I didn't have a band anymore.
Yeah.
I couldn't rely on Flynch all the time to produce for me because he's trying to run his own studio, and he was having health issues at the time. So my whole mindset was, okay, let's become self-sustainable. You know what I mean? Like I love to make music. Like I love to get in the lab and design sound. I love to do all that. So it was like, how are you gonna get good at it? Practice. So like I kind of went for probably about a couple of years almost where like I remember I went out to Honey, and St. Paul Slim was hosting just a party where they were all DJing, and he goes, "Oh, Bona Fide's in the house. I ain't seen him in like 10 years." And I was like, man, I must have taken a long break for him to say that. You know what I mean? Like, but it was like, I guess I had to go into my cocoon, you know what I mean? Like that, and really develop myself and my sound, how I wanted it to come out. And that's when I started to create Head Nod Theory.
Yeah.
And that was a process. It was, taking beats that I'd made and starting to write over those and making it the music that I wanted it to be. And, obviously like the collaborations with Flynch were, You know, really, like, that's some of the best times I've ever had. You know what I mean? Just like as far as creating goes, because I really, like, he really forced me to do everything at that time. You know what I mean? Like, it was like, here's what we're going to do. Now you play it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, okay, cool. You know, and I had to get it right. And that's really where I cut my chops on that whole, you know, that whole process, you know? And so, yeah, it at that point, after Head Nod Theory came out, then I was ready to get back out, you know, like, so it was a developmental time that now I feel like I'm at a different level, you know what I mean?
Man. Yeah, that's dope. So, I mean, speaking of production and designing sound, you've I'm not sure if you can talk about what you have cooking up nowadays, but you have some exciting things going on. Just recently you invited us out to play at the Cool Key show at the Fine Line. That was dope. You've been rocking with Cool Keith around a couple states here and there.
Yep.
Why don't you give the audience a little insight on some of the exciting things you got going on right now?
Well, you know, I'm good friends with my guy JoJo, who basically he does booking for a lot of really talented artists, you know, like and anytime Minnesota's involved, he just hits me up, you know, and it's a blessing. I love that relationship that we built over time and that's actually the whole book. You caught me on the whole booking thing. Yeah.
So
exactly.
so he was someone that you had met back in like the band days or like who?
Slow Spokes days was
Slow Spokes days.
That's when we got like the, you know, Dell, Capadonna, you know, all those things. So he hit me up and told me Cool Keith was coming to town, and it's like, you know, what are you doing musically right now? Does Slow Spokes want to come out and perform? And, you know, this is years after we've been performing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you know, I got my solo stuff is ready to go, man. I'm like, let me get out here and put it out, you know. And he's like, all right, let's book that then. And cool. So like next thing you know, I'm on the show, and Cool Keith and his manager Eric, cool dudes, like so cool. Like they were just really personable, you know, humble people, glad we were out and wanted to kick it. And they were like, hey, what are you doing tomorrow night? We're going out there. If you want to drive out there, we'll put you up and get you on the gig and take care of you. I was like, let's do this, like, let's go. So the next thing you know, we're heading out to South Dakota. So, man. The whole way out there, we were just vibing, listening to music, and, you know, he's digging on my production. I don't know if he's going to use anything, but who knows? You know, you might see a collab down the road, maybe. Right.
But you actually played me something that was sent back with your production, right?
Yep.
Can you talk about that joint?
Not really right now.
Not yet?
Not really right now.
Maybe you can come back and talk about the joint when it's out.
You know, I would love to play that track, hopefully, by the next time that we do a podcast. Dope. I can't promise that, but, you know, you're privy to some...
Let's just say it's some legendary shit. Some legendary shit on my guy's production here, and it's fire. It was actually one of the dudes was on a track that I was playing when he got here, a classic hip hop jam. So it's pretty exciting, man.
You know,
pretty exciting.
It was one of those moments just to hear that, you know, like it's a validating point in your life. You know what I mean? Even if no one else ever hears it, you get to experience it. You know what I mean?
This ain't just a feature. Like, we're talking features.
Yeah.
Plural.
It was, and you're talking people just like pouring their heart out and lessons. So, not to kill everyone with like anticipation.
Hey,
or anything,
man,
like,
let's kill him with it.
Let's
kill him with it.
It's one of those gems, But not to sell anything short, Orikal. You doing that whole project. That's what I mean. For me as a producer, that's one of my proud moments. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, your stuff is banging, and not only that.
Well, it's because your stuff is banging.
No,
you know what I'm saying?
But I mean, sick of the romaine lettuce. You know what I mean? This dude was spitting lines the whole time, and not only was he spitting lines the whole time, I have the honor of producing a track that Zach quoted you directly in his new book.
Yeah,
so
man.
when
Shout
I
out
was
Big
reading
Zach.
when I was reading that, I was just like, what?
Yeah, same
Like,
here.
oh, it's already. I mean, how did it go from we just put that out to in his new edition of the book? Like, I was like, wow,
I was
like
so
that had to
surprised.
make an impact on someone, and that made me so proud to have collabed on that with you.
Yeah, same
You know,
here, man.
like, that and the City Pages, with you and Cody out doing the video, like, that was a beautiful thing, man.
Yeah,
Like,
man. Yep. Shout out Cody. That project was a lot of fun, and it was really cool to collaborate with you and everything like that. Just like two producers kind of just like
Oh, yeah.
grinding it out for this project, like it was really fun to get the input, because it's a when I work with people, it's a majority of I'm either the beat guy and they're the rapper, or I'm the rapper and they're the beat guy. So like to have all of the worlds kind of combined, like especially with the engineering and the recording and everything,
Yeah.
I think that's what made that project so special. But those are some fire beats. I mean, the beats lay the landscape for it all. And on Drift, I mean, that kind of off-kilter drum is what brought out the flow, which
Yeah.
is what brought out what I wrote, because I write to the flow, and so without the beat, that song would have never have existed. So
that off kilter,
it's dope,
that's that swing that I inherited from Flynch.
yeah, man.
It's that J Dilla-ism.
Yeah, man. So what's in the future for Bona Phide, man?
I'm just doing all kinds of things right now. Like, I'm working on my second project, the second solo project. I've obviously got to finish up our project that you're producing.
Yeah, yeah.
We've got a bunch of tracks on there, and then me and we've got the another one where we got a couple tracks that me and you have been working on. I think that we might put out eventually here.
Yeah, man. Yeah. I've been making some new beats too, so I'll have to send you some new shit, because it's been sounding good. The Vinny Crook shit that's about to come out too. I just
I'm
produced
excited for you on that one.
Entire thing, and
Yeah.
I'll play you some of it when we're done here. But the way it turned out with the final master that we did last night, it was like an 8-hour just like going in on every sound on the record and touching it up.
That's what it
Hearing
needs.
it today, it sounds good.
You got it there.
Yeah, man.
I'm excited for
I'm
you
really
guys, man.
excited.
That's
So
dope.
the production, like, I definitely have to send you like some new beats, man.
Okay.
But I'm really excited to be producing for you. But what else do you got going on though?
So, also working on a new branch of my whole musical aspect,
Yeah.
meditation music.
Okay.
So when I work out, I have to work out a lot. Like I like to do the cardio, I like to lift, but when I do cardio, I like to do the elliptical, and when I do the elliptical, I like to meditate.
Mm-hmm.
So, been listening to a lot of different meditation music, and I've always liked to I made a lot of beats in 432 hertz tuning, which is like a more universally harmonious frequency
Sure.
in a lot of aspects. But with the meditation, it's just perfect for getting you in that zone, where you can just kind of get into that deeper meditation. So I started making meditation music for myself, just to see if I could do it, and I really started to enjoy what I was doing. Obviously, maybe a little ego stroking there, but loved what I was doing. You know what I mean? But then, I had played it I remember playing for you and a couple other people, and you guys are like, well, this could be some of your better stuff too, and so
man.
it was kind of validating at that same point, like, okay, so all right, I might have a new thing here. And so the first track I'm going to be releasing here February 21st is an hour meditation. It's called 432 hertz singing bowl meditation.
Okay.
And I collaborated with Corey Matlock on the singing bowl. She played the singing bowl on there, and then I took that and built a whole meditational track based around the singing bowl. And it
Dope.
really hits some cool frequencies. So when it evokes certain things from within that, I think the music is really doing something there. So I'm excited to drop that.
That's dope.
And then, so it's called Astral Genesis. And I'm very excited to put it out.
Word. Well, that's dope, man. So why don't we get into the song? It looks like, let me see here. You brought a song called Peacekeeper. What's this song about, man?
So this one's a throwback to my bouncer days.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Basically, I used to bounce for a while, and you get into these rah-rah situations, people, challenging you, that type of thing. Sometimes you got to fight, and all of those elements kind of combined to create this song. And I call it Peacekeeper basically because that's the job of the bouncer. You're the peacekeeper in the bar. But yeah, now it's from the performance side of things. You know what I mean?
Word up. Well, this has been Organized Grind, the podcast with Orikal Uno. We've been kicking it with Bona Phide. You can find his music on Spotify, YouTube, all of the digital streaming platforms out there. Once again, that's spelled Bonaphide. Yeah, we're going to get into a song, Peacekeeper. As always, peace and love.
Organized Grind with Orikal Uno. Recorded live at Grassroots Studios in South Minneapolis.
Better put that thought away. One look into your eyes told me the cards you wanna play. Yeah, we don't play that shit in here. Bend your hand back until it's pointed at your ear. Yeah, now I'm coming out the speakers. Make me leave the stage, I'll transform into a creature. Yeah, I'm the one who keeps the peace. You saw me by the door and pulled out your ID. 6'6", 300. I'm built like a grumman. Skies mixed with rivets, leave your face meat bumming. I'm a heavyweight, southpaw, fuck a concussion. When I hit you, eyes back, neighbors see a fucking mushroom. Yeah, blah, blah, blah. As I backhand your jaw, rhymes belt in the sky was the last thing you saw. Standing tall like a Lee, looking down at Sonny Liston. If we're talking bad boys, I'm an 89 piston. That's a big block motor he's got under his hood. Call me the mechanic, I'll leave you tuned up real good. Like the musician I am, I'm the main conductor. You on the train tracks, looking like a fucking sucker. Amtrak in the moon, the air horn warning sound. I'm a stagehand, show's done, I'm tearing you down. You no good bozo, you bum, you look like a clown. Got fucking Mick in my corner, Balboa's in town. Yeah, better put that thought away. One look into your eyes told me the cards you wanna play. Yeah, we don't play that shit in here. Bend your hand back until it's pointed at your ear. Yeah, now I'm coming out the speakers. Make me leave the stage, I'll transform into a creature. Yeah, I'm the one who keeps the peace. You saw me by the door and pulled out your ID. If I'm defending my life, you will exit stage right. Ain't getting past me without messing up your night. I'll be missing limbs and claiming it's just a fucking scratch. My only response to you? The similarities to this, man, they stop right there. Cause you ain't King Arthur, you just a Hollywood square. Run your mouth real good in front of all your fake friends. Watch them scatter like roaches when your winning streak ends. I was perfectly fine with us never even meeting, but you let your complex show with your shallow ass breathing. Trying to sneak this, thought you laughed when I missed, but then I made your girl laugh, that made you get real pissed. You telegraphed your swing, it messed up the fresh air. Then you met my left hook and fell down a few stairs. Should've made you sign a waiver, was scared I could've killed you. Could've made your family rich, I'm sure you're not familiar. Yeah, better put that thought away. One look into your eyes told me the cards you wanna play. Yeah, we don't play that shit in here. Bend your hand back until it's pointed at your ear. Yeah, now I'm coming out the speakers. Make me leave the stage, I'll transform into a creature. Yeah, I'm the one who keeps the peace. You saw me by the door and pulled out your ID. I'm access control, you don't want it with me, man. You look like Prince Adam, but you're acting like He-Man. I have the power to shut your whole shit down, but I'm trying to have a good time, you should just sit down. That little man, tough guy, you think you're big, don't ya? Waking up confused, shining, screaming, I owned you. Bag of peas for your your eye. Sucker, please bye-bye. Didn't ask for your attention, you didn't have to try. You a Bill O'Reilly dude, you don't know when to quit. Mouth running like Hussein, need my record breaking fist. Left cards leave the best loss on any given, I'm beaming. Coin toss for the next boss, try to beat me, you're dreaming. I'm a pro with the Louisville, you brought your big bopper. You're the QVC network, I'm the fucking showstopper. No round two for you, bruh, want me to show you like Cuba? Bought you concrete boots, son, I hope you like scuba. Yeah, better put that thought away. One look into your eyes told me the cards you wanna play. Yeah, we don't play that shit in here. Bend your hand back until it's pointed at your ear. Yeah, now I'm coming out the speakers. Make me leave the stage, I'll transform into a creature. Yeah, I'm the one who keeps the peace. You saw me by the door and pulled out your ID.